Greetings, this is Kevin Jefferson, founder of the Forex Fam and followmytrades.com, here with trade theory and actually beginning of the week market analysis. So what I'm going to do is analyze 5 different pairs, primarily USD based. So we're going to analyze dollar based pairs because the dollar is the most prevalent currency in the market. And so we just want to see from a high level what's going on in the market this week. So what I want to do is start off with the USD versus the Canadian dollar, the CAD, C-A-D. Being that oil prices moved pretty heavily at the end of last week, and the Canadian dollar is heavily tied to oil prices as well. So what I wanted to do is look at the chart here on the monthly. What we have is the market is actually trending down on the monthly for the USD versus the Canadian dollar, and then on the weekly chart, what we have here, and we'll come back to that in a second. I'm just going to give you the trend direction right now and then go back and give some analysis. So on the weekly chart, it's trending downward as well, as you can see down here. And then on the daily chart, you have the market actually trending down right there. So it's actually in a downtrend on the daily as well. All right, so once we get down to the 4-hour, what we have is actually, you can't see it if you're not paying attention, but it's actually in a pullback from an uptrend right now. So it's trending up on the 4-hour, and I want you to take note of that because we'll come back to that. And then getting down to the 1-hour, what we have is actually trending. It's in a pullback from a short, so it's in a downtrend, but you see these wicks here, almost as if the market is preventing it like a force field from going any lower. So we're going to pay attention to that. So what does that mean? Going back out to the monthly, what we see here is the market has moved. It's addressed a lot of different areas. It's moved back up into this area here, made some moves longer. You have the wicks on the high side, and then you see the pairs move back into consolidation, which to me is an indication that it wants to move back short before determining exactly where it wants to go. So on the monthly chart, we have, I marked up a couple of areas. What I expect to happen is a pullback on the lower time frames from the 1-hour all the way up to the daily, a slight pullback, and then a consolidation and an actual opportunity or pattern that will tell us trigger to go short. And then I expect it to move downward on the first target being in the 118.426 area, and then the next target being in the 102.377 area. So I'm looking for over the next several months, this could be the next year, next 2 years, it could be over the next 3 years, that the US dollar will hit parity with the Canadian dollar. So that's the long-term play for those who are interested in long-term prospects. So I could clearly see that on the weekly chart that we would have a move back up into this area here on the daily. And then the possible pushback down south into this target area here as the first target. We'll go back to the daily and look at it. We have a trend here, and it wouldn't surprise me if it pulled back up into this consolidation before moving back short. And on the 4-hour, definitely looking for it to move up into this area potentially as a part of that pullback, and on the 1-hour as a part of that pullback right here before it determines if it wants to go short. But definitely looks like a short bias over the long term on the USDCAD, so I would, maybe watch any upward movements and see if they stall out before actually taking the trade, but definitely want to be mindful of that as well. So with that, we're going to move on, and I'm going to shift over to the euro dollar. On the monthly, on the euro dollar, what we have is actually it's trending upward here. It's in a level too long based on my analysis. And then on the weekly, what we have is it's trending upwards as well. If you see this big green candle, so that's pretty easy to see. And then when you move to the daily, you have the market trending upward pretty strongly as it ended the week. And on the 4-hour, it's actually trending up as well here. And on the 1-hour, still doing the exact same thing. It's pulled back right here at the end of the day, but it's definitely trending up. So what do you do when that's happening? Because it sounds like that should be a clear indication that you want to take the trade long. And so what I would do is actually I marked it up, and I see that this could possibly pull back down to the 118.593 area, somewhere in that range, before actually continuing long. So what I see, if I go down a little bit lower, I see that there's some areas that could be addressed here right at the top, and then getting observation and indication if it wants to continue long. But on the lower time frames, from the 30-minute down to the 15, is giving indications that this wants to come back and possibly test this level again, and then give us the uptrend that we're looking for. It could continue north, but being that these candlesticks are moving straight up, remember, as I talk about velocity, candlesticks, once they're pointing straight up and doing that continuously, at some point they have to pull back down and go the opposite direction. And so I'm expecting in the short term for the euro to maybe pull back into about the 120.723 area, consolidate, and then give us an opportunity to maybe take that trade long. So the bias is definitely long right now on the euro dollar. As I see out here on the monthly, we've got a target here at the 124 area, and then we have another target at the 129 area for the euro versus the dollar. So slight pullback and then a move north is what the expectation long term is for the euro dollar. So now let me go down to the pound dollar. Excuse me. What we have here on the monthly, the pound dollar is actually in a pullback from a short here. As I look at the collection of candles, it's actually pulling back from a downtrend on the monthly chart. When I go out to the weekly chart, what I see is actually it moving in an uptrend. It's pulled back, but it's actually moving up despite the wicks. And then on the daily chart, it's doing the same thing. We had, as I mentioned before, it pulled back down to the area that I mentioned. It's going back long, and it's pulling back from a long. So one thing I want to note about the British pound, and you want to note about the British pound, is that a lot of the times it will do what we call a fake out. So it will actually move in a direction, pull back in a consolidation, give you a solid trade opportunity, and then we'll move back and knock out stops and then come back and do exactly what you thought it was going to do. So I wouldn't be surprised that if this pair doesn't come back down on the daily and touch into the 135 area before, or maybe even lower, tap this EMA here, but hit the 135 area and then consolidate, moving back up into this consolidation or pushing right back through there and going long again. So be mindful of that. That's an opportunity that could happen, and actually something I may be hoping for because I do have a sell trade on as a part of this pullback. So on the 4 hour, we have the same thing. It's pulling back from a short here, and then on the 1 hour chart, it's actually moving downward as well. So my expectation and hope is that it would at least, it's got a couple of areas to address on the lower time frames, and on the 1 hour, I see that this 137.924 area is one that needs to be addressed. And so I would expect, although my take profit is a little shorter than that, that it will blow through my take profit, touch the 137 area, and then make a decision on when it's ready to move back long. So the long bias is definitely long for the British pound versus the USD, but there could be some short-term movement in the downside before it does that. So be mindful of that, and just watch your trades and take your time taking your setup. So now, the next pair I want to address is gold versus the USD. It's made a lot of moves over the last several weeks, and so I want to come back and address that. So gold on the weekly is obviously trending upward. It's showing this pullback here, but it's definitely pulling up. Excuse me. It's pulling back right here, but it's actually trending upwards over the long term. So as you see down here on the monthly and weekly, I see areas that could be addressed by gold. So I mentioned previously that I expect it to move back short. It does a lot of things before it actually ultimately gives the long-term play, obviously. So on the monthly, it's pulling back from a long. On the weekly, it's trending upwards as well. It's been pulling back for several weeks off of these highs right here. And then on the daily, what we have also is a trend upward. So it's pulling back, but it's actually trending upward here, where it actually turned long right about this point, and it's been pushing up. So that's another indication that it could regain some steam back down to this 13 EMA before continuing long. So on the daily, it's pulling back, but it's definitely in an uptrend. On the 4 hour, it's actually trending downward here, and so that may be the beginning of the move into the opposite direction as a part of that pullback. And the same thing on the 1 hour. You see these two large red candles that happened at the end of last week, and I expect a pullback up into this one between the 1782 to 1785 area. So between 1782 and 1785. Maybe a pullback up there, and then giving us another opportunity for this trade to drop. So I'm looking in the short term for gold to drop versus the USD, and then over the long term, we'll watch it. We'll see what happens if it comes down here and stays, or if it's going to come down here and consolidate and then give us a continuation long. But it may have done what I said previously. It may have already addressed going up back into this high area that I had spoken to, and then it may turn back around down here and actually continue short over the next several months, and moving gold to a low of around maybe 1381, between 1380 and 1460 on the long-term chart. So that's something to pay attention to as well. So the next thing, if I can find it here, I want to look for Bitcoin and see what's going on with the Bitcoin. So looking to the Bitcoin chart, we've got on the monthly, obviously it's trending upward on the monthly. It's pulling back, but it's definitely trending up on the monthly. Let me move these right here so we can see what's going on. Alright, so that's a target, and that's a target here. Alright, so on the monthly, it's pulling back from a long, but it's definitely trending up. On the weekly, it's actually in a downtrend right here. So it's moving down, and I'll get back to the target areas here in a second. I just want to give a general explanation of where it's moving. On the daily chart, it's trending downward as well. And then on the 4-hour chart, it's actually pulling back, but it's trending downward. And then on the 1-hour chart, it's actually moving into an uptrend. And so when you saw the two targets on the 1 hour, I fully expected to hit up between the 51 and 53,000 area. It may go higher, but definitely expecting it to maybe. So if you put a target in between there, you should be able to get something out of it in the short term. And so what we have to watch is it's showing some indications that it needs to pull back into consolidation and then reestablish direction. If we go out to the larger time frames, you can see this has moved straight up. I wouldn't be surprised on the weekly. Now this could be a period of several weeks, so you got to be mindful, but maybe over the next, I don't know, 4 to 8 weeks at the most, it should pull back, or could pull back between the 33,000 and the 38,000 area for Bitcoin, and that would be obviously a great buying opportunity there. So I just be mindful of this. It's trending back upwards, but I think the long-term play right now is short on Bitcoin. So if you have any sell opportunities, I will maybe put those on before any long opportunities. So with that being said, if you want to get more analysis like this, text FM Trades, FM like the radio station, trades with an S, to 474747 to get updates on trading tips and financial tips and strategies to help secure your financial foundation. And if you haven't already, join us as a lifetime member of the Forex fam. Go to the linktree/FM Trades, click the first button and get a discount as a lifetime member. Or you can go directly to our website, fmtrades.com, and visit us on YouTube under the same name, Forex Family. And until next time, happy trading.